think that's how that button works. Hello all. Awesome. Hello. Welcome in. Thank you for the follow. Ooh, what a day. What a day. I have dogs unsettled around me, so forgive me if I seem I have no attention span. Go sit down. Go sit down, bud. Joe, Stony, hello as well. What a day. No way we work at the same place. I didn't have a day. I had a day. Um, autism. Welcome in. How you doing? Aren't all bugs pesky by nature? Hello. Oh, this job thing is just keeping me busy enough to make sure I can't hang out in streams very much, isn't it? Oh, well, yes. Well, I'm not better, I'm not healthier. I am better equipped to handle the stream. I'll put it that way. Autism. Streamer bot. Why do I do this? Why do I do this myself? Is Restream going to work today? App.restream.io. One of these tools actually going to do what I want it to do? Peter said, which have both. That. Will do. Oh my goodness. Life, what do devs use for testing endpoints? I would of late be using um, endpoints. I'm not sure what I would use. I'd look at using tools like Postman and called best suites of endpoints, but I haven't looked at anything automated. I've been using more Playwright um, on the UI side, and I've seen of recently using that to do testing. Or if I'd advise that, really built for that UI UX. Yeah, not really my. I'm sure it will be by the time I get through this, though. Well, at least one of the pieces. Pieces. Okay, sounds off. So, okay, you shall deal with that first. Appreciate the heads up. What does it sound off? Muffled and quiet. But how does that sound? It's still peaking, but it's not. Okay, that's clear, isn't it? Okay. So, Mike, 1 second. Okay. Does that sound better? Wow. You're that used to not paying attention to what I'm saying. Well, thank you, Autism, for the heads up. Appreciate it. Did something earlier, it sounded good. So I've gone to using wireless mics, and what I did is I held the mic closer to my mouth. So it could be that I had a heavy sweatshirt on. It could have muffled it. It gives me much more desk space to have a wireless mic. But unfortunately, it does revolve around where I put the microphone to my mouth, right? So if I fidget with it, though. No worries, Autism. Thank you very much for coming and hanging out. Appreciate it. Lay down, dog. Lay down, dog. Okay, so today, what I've been working on has been moving my entire set of databases over to Postgres from SQL Server. What I decided to do was just go all in and knock it all out as quickly as possible. So I changed everything. And what I've been learning is how painful that can be. What I decided to do was try and be more idiomatic to Postgres. So table names are different than SQL Server. So in SQL Server, I had ls dot, etc. In Postgres, I have ls underscore. I'm still sticking with the ls prefixing because I do have two databases that are missing from this. No, Control Tower. Control Tower databases are still going to be sat in the same server right this second. Control Tower is a administration system built for building maintenance functions around subscription data, customer data, those sorts of things would be held in Control Tower eventually. You could do billing and addressing and stuff outside of the main, so there's no need to have company data in this level. However, what it means is by moving over to something like Postgres, my tables are now all lowercase or snake-cased as they are, and that's given me some challenges. I do want to do that. Initially, I had the export build them all out. As long as the product's labeled properly, it doesn't matter what it's called underneath. And I'm not messing around with that one as well. So and again, this is Liquid Sky. That's Control Tower. They make up Kaizu. One way of looking at it. Kaizu is a platform. Liquid Sky is a component of the system. So anyway, naming the columns like that, Entity Framework kind of deals with it, but not fully. And I'm going through that pain right this second with some stored procedures I've built. And I just got to the point earlier on today where I almost managed to register, because obviously I'm starting from scratch again. I've wiped out all the data. This is a complete start again. This does test what happens when I start again scenario. So I've got a user in Auth0, but I don't have tenants ready. Do I create new users? Do I duplicate things? So what I was doing before is learning more about this. Now, the funny thing is when the AI, and again, I've used AI quite extensively with these because there's no way I could have plotted this time frame. When the AI suggested I use stored procs, it actually gave me this call syntax. Turns out if you're running a stored procedure to just execute something in Postgres, you can use call. But if you want results, you can't. You have to use it like a function. So it will create functions for returning and or procs are purely the reserve of executing things. So it's kind of a nice separation. But this all had to change because this was exec, and then we have this search, and Postgres doesn't support optional parameters. So I have this kind of working. However, um, it's throwing me up some further problems, and I'm trying to determine why. Now, to get the mapping to work in its own challenge as well, but infrastructure in my context, I now have with snake case conventions. I've had to build an extension method again with the help of our super friendly AI to build these extension methods. Refactor this to reduce complexity. It doesn't like this because I love how it's the constructor. Um, this cognitive complexity is too high. It's a for loop that loops through all the entity types and then goes through each of the properties, keys, foreign keys, indexes, etc., to build out the mappings. And what this does is it says, okay, well, this is the foreign key. Let's make it follow the convention, right? So it goes through and does the $_ replacement of things. So I'm still trying to learn. That still doesn't feel very right, actually. But either way, two lower cases it does the underscores, and things should work. Actually, this is one where I can probably write something in the form of a test around. It's AI because it's labeled everything for us. It doesn't need labeling. Pretty obvious what it's doing. Now, yeah, the problem I'm having, right, erroring on me, weird and wonderful ways. What helps if it actually now keep forgetting to do that part, don't I? Apex announces it. I appreciate it. Reminds me. We're interested in seeing how someone is using AI to do game development as well. Apex has been doing a lot of great things with uh, AI tools, and he's also building his game. He's coding it himself, but he's also using a lot of AI for helping with things and finding things out. So he's very knowledgeable when it comes to AI. So I highly recommend. Okay, so that should wait on this startup. It takes a while sometimes. I've been abandoned by the dogs because my wife came back. Happens. Oh no. Deflux, how you doing? Wait for this to start. I'm not too certain that dying on my would be a really bad thing. I'm not spending our payment on getting a new drive. Okay, so when I hit this endpoint, we are going to tenant management. This piece will register the tenant. Location, we have the workflow, register new organization, and register flow. Two, Um, so we're going to register the tenant. Do we even get past that part? No, we don't. The error occurred while saving column city, town, or village a relation addresses that exist. Anyway, you could explain the difference between a class and a record in clean. Um, it's not a case of clean architecture or not. It's a case of intent. Um, using a record, records are very useful for immutable objects where you want to set values and pass them around, but you don't want to change them on the way. Um, that's a very useful case for record. I use records for simple objects. For example, I might have a command that's a record because all it is a data object that I'm passing values into. It doesn't have much behavior. Um, and record doesn't have. There's technical differences in slightly, but um, yeah, you can the comparison there. I think the equality is important, but not certain. I generally use them, but I don't think it's a clean architecture versus regular architecture. It's the choice of knowing what the record does and why you're using it. I use it because it's a immutable object. I shouldn't be able to change this command, right? I shouldn't be able to manipulate this command in the path. I'm using it for a smaller object type rather than a class that has. You can still create an immutable object with a class, but it's a little bit more definition specification. Um, hmm. Um, let's have a look. Let's see if Microsoft has. So records, you can have a modifier to a class or struct. Records are types with built-in behavior for value-based equality. Right. A record provides the following features. Precise syntax for creating a reference type with immutable properties. Value equality. Two variables of a record type are equal if they have the same type. If for every field the values in both records are equal. Classes use reference equality. So like Default said, if you're doing, you know, one of my favorite things to do in these sorts of cases is I don't I don't know the ins and outs of every single type in the language because I'm not deep in the language. I'm using the features of the language that are kind of shallow. But one thing that I do find very useful to do is when you're trying to learn about these things, get a tool. There's online tools. I like LinkPad. It's one of my favorite tools for tinkering with. But again, I do public class, sample class, you know, public int get it public uh, get init. So essentially an immutable object, right? Var sample a equals sample class one test class. Um, right, that'll come back false because they're not referentially equal. But that's still an immutable object. I can't go and change the values. Sample a dot s2, right? Because I've set it as an init variable, so it can only be initialized that way. I create a record, and what they're saying there, by the way, in the Microsoft documentation is you can do. I think it's class sample d You can put the record modifier in front of class, but that's a shortcut. So really, underneath, it's just the flag this is, and if you look at it, it does change the behavior of in the IL how it builds the class. But yeah, you can put record class equivalent. So now if I do that with records, bar sample C equals sample record one test sample D. You can see immediately the syntax is a little easier because if I made that, I could make that syntax the same in a class by using a constructor and making this a private set, so it would never be exposed again. But that would also internally, and you can make a record, by the way, you can make a record non-immutable. Pretty easy ways to do it. I'm not entirely sure. I don't use a lot of structs, if I'm honest. It's not a data type that I've necessarily needed to use, um, or a construct I've needed to use. Structs are useful if you're carrying around like bunches of ints and stuff, but they're not really a lot of otherwise. We can do sample C equals D dot dump, and that'll be true. So that's the referential versus value recorded that Deflux was pointing out. Built-in formatting for display, support for inheritance hierarchies or classes. Record structs don't support inheritance. Yeah, nice. This syntax is nice. The with, but if you need to do bar sample E equals sample C, I don't do this. Name equals I2. You can create a new copy of the object. So you can be again more expressive about when you create a new value to mutate it. Well, no, structs in C# are not. What do I know about structs? Although that's not even. I think types of. They don't actually mention structs in that. Again, when I'm using the language, I'm not really paying much attention, if I'm honest, to a lot of these things, to the nuances of them, because I'm not optimizing for those things. Classes cover most cases. I like using records because they just clean that syntax up a little bit, and I use them to pass commands around. But yeah, if I was going to optimize a little bit more, then I'd probably pay more, which is what if I was writing something that had to be high performance, then I'd really go into the. But invariably, as far as I understand, as soon as you pass a reference type into a struct, it kind of is a class anyway. So being that I pass most things around like that, I just follow a general pattern of how I work. And I've got to be careful I don't use a lot of my early experience with types versus what we do now in C# because a lot has changed. Okay, so question. So where this is in my workflow here, does tenant exist? Is it failing there? Failing. Does tenant exist with name? This shouldn't get anything, so I think it's getting here. And then it's failing to map the properties and address right thing. I think it's failing to capture this because the properties are not being snake cased properly. But I don't understand why that would be. Let's have a look. See how far it's getting. Generally, I'll know if I'm digging into stuff like that. I use a test program to understand the behavior a bit more. Um, I Again, you can probably pretty much read up on pretty quickly why you might use that type. Um, I think in clean architecture, intent is helpful when you're passing data objects through the layers. But having the record means this is clearly an object you shouldn't mess around with. Shouldn't be changing it. You shouldn't be manipulating things. Um, but then again, I think some of that's signaled by where it is if you're paying attention to how the code is structured. Um, so that's how I would go about learning. I'm always trying to make sure I educate myself a little bit more. I use more. Go wait for this to start up. That's the problem now. Okay, so when I hit register, hit the server. Awesome. And then we and over that one. Uh, we get past this part is the question. Yes, we do. Okay. So we did get the record back. We got nothing. No, if yeah, it doesn't exist already. So we know it doesn't exist. So then we go in here, and now this fails on address. And this fails because an error occurred while saving column city, town, or village of relation addresses. Nicus, hello, how you doing? So again, this is where I question whether the code for dealing with the casing is properly. So on the context, I've got the with snake case convention. Good. Deal with addresses. But it actually did give me a little bit more, that didn't it? No. City, town, or village of relation addresses. Again, is this doing its job? I don't know. Oh, oh, hold on. I think it's that. I think it's that that's the problem. You know, when I paused, I was like, I'm not sure that's doing what I think it's doing. Code all being lazy. I think this stuff, uh, regex naming regex was that. I think what's happening, var import equals, let's do this. Let's do tenant test. Thing is no white space. Import, return import. Eh. What is this extension for? What are you doing? This is because I'm going from SQL Server to Postgres, and I've rebadged and relabeled all my Postgres tables in Postgres. So, in any case, table names, column names, etc. I do not want to change all the .NET code. So what this is doing is it's going to, on the model building, it's going to go through and map all the right columns. So it's going to say, okay, well, called it tenant test, but that's really underscore tenant underscore test with lowercase t's. And this is failing because it's only doing it once. I think when I do this, it's going to give me city underscore lowercase town or village, all as one word. We can get rid of that one. No, we're not going to. Um, so so tenant underscore test. But if we now give it input to, oh, it does it. It actually does work. That's impressive. Okay, why am I misunderstanding how that works? A to Z, 0 to 9, capturing group, capital A to capital Z, capturing group, regex replace, follow one. How does that work? Trying to understand the regex. Our favorite tools. So what I've taken to doing, by the way, is I've taken to using Copilot for explaining some concepts to me. I'm actually finding Copilot Web pretty useful for that. Then I'm using Claude for coding stuff, and I've used Claude for both the prereq stuff, which is getting all the Postgres stuff working, and the UI, which again is just to accelerate me through that. And then I'm just coding on the back end and asking Copilot questions. So, can you explain this red when combined with inserts an underscore between a lowercase digit and a following uppercase letter? The regex captures that boundary and the replacement $1 re-emits the same characters with an underscore in between. Okay, so it's not splitting it. It's saying, okay, if you get this pairing of a lowercase or a digit followed by an uppercase, you're going to put a space. You're going to put an underscore in between. Gotcha. Okay. And it'll make them left and right. So this capture group is 1, this capture group is 2. It'll make them with, and then to lower it all. Have you manually enabled the new code agents? I have not messed around with agents. I am not that ready to do a lot of stuff. So I've used Claude primarily for dealing with it. That has accelerated this. Not using, I say a lot right now. I'm not using Claude on the back. Don't want to. I'm having fun doing it. I'm just still using AI to ask questions and to evaluate ideas, but I'm not ready to just let AI go. Yeah, there you go. Just do all my system for me. I still don't. I don't have that much quality. It's just the front end willing to accept that it's not going to be best, but it'll work. Okay, so that is working. That's a problem. Van Horn, good evening. How are you doing? How are things going? No, no. I have no interest in taking that challenge on. Um, there's any guides you want to link me to in the Discord? You want to share any experience in Discord? Feel free. I have no issue with going off and thinking. I'm growing my comfort levels bit by bit. Um, want to accelerate that much. So I think okay. Address create, go Actually, this got called out in time. I got I got Claude to translate all my SQL scripts, to generate SQL scripts for all my databases, and it wasn't working. It wasn't working. It wasn't working. It turns out it completely misunderstood how this code worked, and it labeled all the fields wrong, so it's comparing the wrong things to the wrong things, which it looks like it's done again. That's not right. Interesting. This is comparing the input to the input. This is not what it should say. It should be comparing this. That should be, I think, gave me a syntax earlier on that does this. This should be the variables passed. Oh, completely misunderstood. Yeah, it doesn't work. That's not what it took it, but this is working. Um, thought I had something working. You do not need to rename it. So in theory, I shouldn't have to do this. This is the annoying thing. Um, I thought I had a method doing this. What I think is happening, either somewhere in here, I'm specifying a relation that is shipping main and address. No relation. So the only way I can do that is if I breakpoint in there. So what I'm going to do, I mean, defaults. I've seen a lot of stuff of people talking about agent teams, and people say, "Oh yeah, just let it go and do all my things." And no, it still doesn't interest me to do that. I don't get why you would do that. Oh, that's why I said I'm willing to look up stuff if there's articles or there's videos that you say, "Hey, these are really good ones. I've watched these. I've read this." I'm more than willing to go and learn. Ads, hey, some commands again would be good. I did just see actually that an email from Claude or Anthropic that they are going to enable a new feature that is basically it won't prompt you for everything. So just do whatever it can unless it needs permission. So if it can do it, it'll do it. I'm not sure happy about, but well, it's not going to do it by default. You still have to tell it to do. Okay, so this is address. Let's type address, table name, addresses, and we set the table name to addresses, properties. Come on. Property is shadow required alter shadow. Awesome. What? Entity. One property. Keys get foreign keys. How can there be one property on addresses? That makes sense. Well, that makes sense there. Makes sense. Okay. Address. What doesn't make sense there is that should have an primary key. Up there. Oh, it does. Okay. As key ID. Base entity, so it has ID, identifier, date updated, date added and last updated by default. So why do you not get properties? I thought I built that code out. I didn't think I built that code out in Claude. That's, nope, I built it in Claude. Where did I build it in Copilot? Extension, model builder extension. So this is the shared kernel code. Every project's going to do this. Not sure where. Oh, it's I'm doing it off screen because it's not really. If it comes up with interesting results, I'll bring it across. Otherwise, the following code help um, translate standard cell case Model building is. So here's where I find out that all those little field mappings I've got hide this behavior, and I've got a problem. Listed. It is useful. Oh no, I was right. If EF core thinks your type is a keyless entity, a complex own type, or a query type, or not added to that model at all, then it will not map properties, no columns. Check for missing DB set in your DB context. Keyless. Hold on. That might be our first protocol. I've taken. Oh no, it is there. Keyless attribute has no key in configuration, being configured as an owned type. If core cannot find a primary key, no property name, ID, or type name, no key attribute, or no has key. Has key. Um, uh, it is. It's because of this. These are not exposed as public properties because there's no get sets on them. There's gets, but there is no sets, which means they are not fields. They are not mapped as properties. And that's why it's coming back with a temp ID thing. My only solution there is to do uh, X. That'd be that. That. That is not all the fields that are defining this. No way. There's no way there's only 80. I can't do it en masse because there's some of these that don't even touched. The deliverable, initiative, task, address, ticket, tenant. Might be actually a requirement, scheme, print. Okay, it might be. Those are all the entities I have. So again, we'll go to can I do a regex replace against those things? This is a challenge of having the domain and the database entity as one concept. So this isn't an aggregate or whatever. This is the actual database object that I'm pulling the domain behavior into. This is very much in the style of several other developers build these sorts of systems. Not unique to something I'm doing. It's not a quirk. It is by design, but it does give me this limitation right second. This wouldn't be a problem with Entity Framework using we could use that property, but it can't unless. Hold on. Let's go back to that model. Get properties. Oh no, get properties. This isn't your standard get properties. Uh, not like you can say, "Hey, I want all uh, um, public get set, public private get set, private set." So yeah, okay. Um, and the reason I'm committing to doing this is because I think it is right to stay true to Postgres. I think it's better to do it. Uh, so what this is telling me is that in here I can do use property access mode, property mode field. This produces a real EF property name backed by underscore name included in get property named by a state case condition. This is the recommended pattern for immutable. If your domain model intentionally exposes no CLR type at all, figure that, then the EF call will never expose this to support snake case, and you have to do column. Okay, so in theory, if I do this with that, what? Uh, RN dot use property access. Will either go very badly wrong with a massive uh, revert, or so place. Not liking that. Replace anything? I don't think you replace anything. I think you failed. The only thing is, it wants to do it. It will let me ping. It identifies these, and it's giving me the hint that it will do that. Right? 78 matches in 17 files. Oh, this one is not working. If I hit that, it'll say 78, but it won't do anything. That should be the capture group, so that should be that. Good work. Escape the quotes, we escape the parentheses. /r/n. Oh, escape that. At what point do you do it yourself? Because that shows me that's ready to do that, right? That says ready to work on this field. That button's just jammed. Yeah, that's about as escaped as a slash dot // place. What happens with dot field place? Okay, that worked. Oh, because that's what collection. I could have gone through the entire set of 78 by now. I know that. Now it's a mission. Now it's a challenge. It worked on that one. Okay, there. So has field place all. There you go. That works. Kind of. Report this stream. And the does Twitch allow this? I'm wondering the same thing. Keep managing to sneak a stream in. Hey, dear sir. Hopefully well. Okay, well, it works on a local file. Back up to the big leagues. That. Oh. Nope. Still didn't work. Place all. I mean, let's. Oh no, because I need to do this on the others anyway. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to expose these fields to the properties, so that the that's me playing the role of a grumpy game dev. Fine. To be honest, I found my happy path, right? I found that I don't mind using the AI heavily on the front end, but on the back end, I still enjoy the challenge of trying to learn, grow. So quite happy. Um, you have to use your hands. I think that's where they go. I kind of like it. It's kind of fun. Let's see if this works. Let's see if we can get a tenant in. So, um, trying to move from Microsoft SQL Server to Postgres, Postgres SQL, whatever you want to call it. Um, I will say, with the help of AI, much quicker than I expected it to. It's only taken me a couple of days of tinkering, probably about 5 or 6 hours total. Um, what we're trying to do right this second is get the registration Kaizu working to move forward with our nice new shiny Postgres backed system. Uh, put a rather lengthy post in my Discord today about the reason as to why doing that. See. Okay, so if I hit register, how far do I get now? Yes, we hit another error. Oh no, we hit a breakpoint. That's not the breakpoint I wanted to hit. Wah, wah, wah. The town of the trusted you AI, still let me down. Sent me on a wild goose chase, and then had I let you do it on your own, you'd have done it all and made a bigger mess. um, so that's what it advised me to do, to expose those as properties again. That breakpoint back there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to debug that and check to see if it exposes any properties now that those are there. I think it's not going to. I don't think I did the base type. No, but the fields that should matter, the fields that matter right this second. I don't mind it erroring in a different field. That's perfectly fine. But it hasn't shifted the goalpost, right? It hasn't moved that redrawn a new line in the sand. Come on, wake up now. Oh, oh, wake. Waiting for this. Start up. But I've got months, well, over a year and a half of building it this way. And I've not really noticed any particular performance issues, but this last couple of days, things are really starting to get clunky. I haven't changed that much. Okay, point should hit now. And just I mean, I do have 5 instances of Rider open, Data Grip, WebStorm, Docker running, OBS streaming. I'll give it some uh, leeway on performance. Let's have a look. Well, that's in that breakpoint. Yeah. So what we're expecting to see here is this should loop through all the entity types, and right here we should get properties or addresses. Our table name should be address. Yep. And right the second we want to see it come back with properties. So entity still shadow. My next step there is to replace these with has column name and see if these get exposed now. City, town, or village. State, province. Okay. I had a moment of, please tell me it didn't correct anything. Hey, Monmouth, how you doing? How are things? I've got to find a way through here because I have to make sure that I don't mind doing this. This is perfectly acceptable to me. If it means that I have, again, idiomatic Postgres on that side, I do want that so that the code can work. This is a translation layer. I don't mind changing the database layer. I think expecting to go, oh, well, I'll use SQL Server today, or oh, well, I'll use Postgres today, or oh, well, MySQL tomorrow. Right? I don't think that's a realistic concept at all. I think you should be ready to change something about your system when you change an entire database platform. That's got to be the case. Let's no, I'm not going to change that. I'm not going to change that because I want to prove that this does or doesn't work, right? Because the path that the machine sent me down was that that previous method would work for this. A real AF property named name, backed by underscore name, included in get properties, renamed by your snake case convention. That should have worked to give this behavior and automated this. That's what I was trying to do with that extension. This extension, the entire purpose of it is to do that naming for us. Yeah, you get hooked on this one weird Postgres plugin and you're funky if anymore. Yeah, I mean, I've seen systems that have moved from Oracle to SQL Server, from SQL Server to MySQL. Um, I've witnessed that. Um, I've witnessed the amount of work that's going into every one of them. Um, you have to be expecting some pain. I've been going a little crazy with JSON beat and PG myself lately. It's beating me okay. I've not even thought about the advantage of having database properly. My sole purpose of this, I saw you did reply. I didn't get to read it yet, but my sole purpose of this, explaining the, I want to make sure that I can. Okay, so property. This shadow entity property is one property. But that's fine. That's fine. I don't care about that now. I want to see. I want to see the needle move. Because I don't care about this anymore. I don't care about this behavior. Why am I? I don't even. That's. I can get rid of this entire extension if next part work. It's that did not work. Okay, if this fails again. Yep, it did. It worked. We're manually defining all the columns. How should you be close? Yeah. Part of my premise in this application as well is I can pick and choose my data storage. If I get to a point where something benefits from having MySQL, or like I do have Mongo, right? I have MongoDB in some pieces because they benefit from just having that flexible schema, that schemaless design, NoSQL. Have that option. Okay, so that worked. So we're back down to and coding at all the fields. Oof. This is better than changing my underlying design though. Um, they added column name fast update. No sequels by no unless. How am I can't even do this. I can't even do this with regex. It'll take me longer to figure out that regex than it took me to figure out that regex. So that didn't even work very well. So the shapes of documents you actually have. The very least you have. Okay. Yeah. You can't say, oh well, this document shaped this way and this document shaped this way and this document doesn't give you that flexibility. I've got to do all these because I need the database to start this. But this is my middle ground. This is I could change the design, but then I would have to come up with a yeah. Where NoSQL benefits is if you change the shape of your object, won't break everything.
but you do have to still consider you might pull an object back, and it doesn't look quite as good as it used to. Or looks a little light on fields. You do have to build that into your design. I think the thing we overlook often is the fact that there are compromises to every single technology we pick. Not a case of perfect technology, a case of finding the technology that works for you and you understand the compromises, the pros and the cons. You just lose relational to nobody. Unless you're using Couchbase, in which case you can still have relations, have uh, that lovely. Um, that's that. So the good news here is I don't actually have that many entities in the system. It might look like there's a bunch of entities, but they don't really have a lot of behavior right this second. User invitation. These these will actually work by that code because these are actually. Oh no, they won't. Oh, oh, they would. This is an interesting one. Worry about that afterwards. Let's get this one working. These objects are kind of early on in the process of building this application out. That looks like I exposed uh, fields in a weird way. In that I kind of wrote the constructor up, but then you pull the invitation back out, you can change it. Not what I intended to do. Part of this underscore field design is to lock down the behavior. So if you were to hydrate the object, then um, uh, with bots generating traffic, just analytics. Analytics is going to be a whole fun game. Actually, I wish you were here earlier on. Autism was coming and asking how you test endpoints. You probably have some answers for that. Okay, so I'm going to assume those other things work, but right this second, I want to move this to the point where registration can be really awesome, right? Ah, Auth0. Seriously. Default into white screen. Oh, got this far. Okay, so what this is going to do is it's going to check to see if my user exists. And then it's going to fail again. Awesome. Register user failed. This is why I don't put try catches around everything, so I can get bumps like that. That can be refined later and managed properly. This is me avoiding working on my JSON schema editor in Ruby and Rails. And gotta watch me fail. Absolutely. Okay, so where did we fail? This should have rolled back. This would be bad if this. This is one of the few pieces in the system where I touch all sorts of stuff at once and they have to align. And if they don't, if one thing fails, it should roll it all back. Taking the date. Well, my general rule on my catch: don't put it in, especially at the time I'm developing stuff. Test thoroughly and find those use cases, and eventually go and put a global try catch handler in to do what you said, like just log it all out. And then if there are specific cases that fail, go in and refine them testing. make sure you're covering those cases. I'm not a big fan of, if this is no shouldn't be no. This, if it's a Tuesday, maybe this will fail. Therefore, let's log the fact that this. I don't like that. I'm a big fan of uh, show the weaknesses. Um, don't try and cover things you don't know. Black sheep, yeah, it's black sheep. Why is it not working? So we're getting past all the database stuff, right? This is where we go in the workflow, in the register new organization workflow. We register the tenant, we register the address, create a user, then we associate that user with a tenant, and then we go and register the provider. This is the piece that says, are you already in Auth0? Yes, okay, then we're good. We'll just associate you. So this should response 404. What? Oh, why would I get response not null? I got some real name problems. What this is meant to do is find the user. But I can't update user with new tenant. Get user by identifier. How would I do this? Ah, well, register user with provider. I've not built this in the way I thought I did. Do we have a user? User with provider. User already registered. It should have hit this. Oh, user registered. Oh, well, no. How could the user be already registered? That's just stupid. So yeah, lots of people drop those sharp buttons. My intent here now, and what I'm doing now is I'm questioning my use case, because this is very early code, right? I'm questioning my use case. I am a user who's coming back to register a new tenant. I already have an account in the overall system. I want to recreate my user, but I do want to register a new tenant, right? That's a use case for certain. I'm signing up like, hey, I'm signing up you as a customer and I want to get it kicked off. I'm gonna sign it up with me because I have an account and it will um um so this is Auth0. This is reaching out to Auth0, right? This is not me. I'm not managing the users account. I'm what I'm doing is associating it with a tenant on my side. Um so this is you the use case here is you want to sign in. Yeah. But if you are coming back and you want to sign up a new customer, um, yeah, sorry. You are going to. Oh, that's actually not been working. It's not been running. Yeah. So what this is meant to do? How the hell would that work? So this is going to create a user in the local machine. Local um, create user command. That user doesn't exist in this. This is a kind of a weird version of it, in that I'm creating the user for that name. I'm going to associate with a tenant and then register them with a provider, but use the same account. So I'd have that user in the system multiple times with the same email. I think for now, I need to use a fresh email. um, appreciate that. I don't know what I'm doing. Fine. Just making it up as I go along. I think what I need to do is not worry about this particular use case because I think I'm going to send myself down a rabbit hole I do not need to go down right now. But one of the first things I need to do is review registration stories. It's one of the things I haven't tested yet because it's kind of messy to test on my own. Is this multi-tenancy? Non-partition. You're doing a strong engineer. It's clear that the number of huge mistakes you're not making. Appreciate it. Okay, so yeah, we're gonna not panic about that piece. What I'm gonna do, set up closing window. That's my way of practically closing apps, by the way. I know that there's a close all, as Mojo has reminded me. Um, kind of like middle closing. Uh, developer mail. Playing the whole game, I don't even like C sharp. Oh no, why have you gone? Um, put down developer mail. How do you do test email without having? I don't want SMTP relay. Technically got that part already. Developer mail was kind of one of the ones I used. And obviously got that done. Basically, it's like Jeffrey's email in this. Jeffrey Winkle's email is at developer mail. I don't want to keep. I want to be able to create unique email addresses for random users. I can test adding multiple users without and still get emails without actually using my email at plus whatever. Best way of doing that. Second, don't need Mailjet. Mailjet seems like the wrong product. Mailaroo. The email API for developers. Don't free. That's the one I like. Free. 3,000 inbound. What do I need? Got paper cut. Paper cut is my paper. That's fine. That's my method of get the no matter what address I use, it's gonna send it. So create account. This will create the user in auth0 for me. I'm still, because of the way I changed the tenancy, initially I used auth0 and then kind of figured out how I was going to do tenancy after the fact. And right now, auth0 has no bearing on tenancy whatsoever. I don't even need to capture well, it's not totally true. I kind of use auth0's user profile to capture the currently selected tenant in, and that comes through. So you are passing through which tenant you actually are currently in. That's passed in headers in your token who you're selected. Initially, I had intended for the user profile, two profiles two profiles where you can store data on the account. And initially, I had planned to give you the list of tenants you could be in, but now I can handle that at the login side. The intention would be to update your user profile and reissue the token, change the tenants. But again, I'm not even in a place to do that yet, so I've not panicked about that learning that I need to. Let's see. If I do sign in the account, Jeffrey, Winkle, Kaizu. Oh, uh, okay. Winkling, Main Street. United States of America. I think that's still failing. Oh, no, it isn't. Okay. The paper cut should have an email. No, paper cut won't have an email because, yeah, that looks right. Third. Um, I'm just saying. Should show the. Yep. So this will show. I just want to tidy that up a little bit. The complete button is stuffed up against the complete button. Complete button is stuffed against the text. That should be paste. Uh, Under the logo. Font. Screens. Feed. Let's see if it manages that one without refreshing the screen. It'll load away if it does. If you are joining, I'm more than welcome to ask any questions. If you have any thoughts or opinions, open to discussion. I'm open to learning and even failing. Interested in application development, a different type. Tony Eagle is developing No Mercy TV, the media application for managing and storing your own media. If you rip your media to files, you can in a Netflix-like interface. Absolutely amazing. Working hard on that. Use that a couple of times a week. Very worth watching. Oh, there you go. That was a bit. What's there? I like how I said interesting. Let's take a look at the third stage registration. The complete button is stuffed up against the text that should be pasted. Registration complete message should sit under the logo in the same font as the previous screens. Almost there. It just renamed registration complete to almost there. I mean, I'm not mad at it, but it's like I didn't say interpret it. That's one of those subtle things you might not notice you did. Okay, complete. Okay, there we go. So now I can go back to sign in. I don't think. Well, because I can log it into Auth0, that's not going to be a big problem for me. Gotta get out of this habit. I turn my my audio off entirely on my phone when I'm working. I keep forgetting to turn it back on at night. Try another method. Right, I'm logging into Auth0. So if I sign in, I think I'm gonna do what I need to do. Oh. That's gonna log in as my previous sign in. Even the, I'm being bounced back because I'm not authorized to. How do I? Cookies. There we go. This is J-Wing Kaizu. Okay, so I don't expect that to work. I don't think the user has any whatsoever system. That's why we're doing this. Going through this bit by bit. Feel all right. So user permission. And what helps? And what helps? So there's this entire other system or control tower. So because the good news is I immediately recognize why it's not working. So when a user registers, that user registration event is published to Kafka, or in this case, um, uh, Red Panda. That publishes that event. What that does is say, hey, I need to create a subscription for this user. Let them in. And right now it's automated. If that event doesn't fire, you don't get permissions into the system, which means you're going to fail to get past the gateway. Gateway doesn't, therefore it can't find your user, and blah blah blah. That's a licensing block, right? Not licensed to use the application until we confirm. Yes. My problem is I've got a feeling I'm going to spend days going through and changing all these. I'm not going to try and bring Render up, right? The Red Panda has. What I'm checking to see is if there's topics that have got messages. That would be. It. So we have a tenant was registered notification on the control tower side. That's because patients. Oh, that's a problem. Isn't it? Try this control tower at the time. This is not going to be a good time. Oh well, is what it is. So over here on subscriptions, so subscriptions for receivers, tenant receiver. So on the tenant being received, we create the new tenant, which will publish another tenant created event internal. Which then on subscriber tenant create. So when a tenant is created, it will publish it'll send a default subscription command, which will then try the tenant, try to see if the subscription exists. Doesn't, it'll create a subscription, which will then publish an integration event to Kafka. Subscription picked up. Now, this I'm not sure shouldn't be a service bus. It's kind of not something you want to broadcast. It's more want to send a command to this user. Only one part of the system that really needs to care about that theory, and that is the user identities. It's the challenge of trying to chain these events together. Right now, I'm using Kafka a lot, and later on, I can come back and figure out, okay, well, this really is a command where I'm saying, hey, do this. This is really an event. This thing happened, and this is data that people can react to. So Kafka is kind of my broadcast of here's some data. You interpret what you need from it, rather than service bus, which is more this thing happened. Want to react to it. It's the expression that I'm looking for there. Um, um, sorry, going in Japanese. Still completely failing to understand why I would use Kafka. Um, there's nothing you couldn't solve. Well, you couldn't solve with point to point, but you couldn't solve with service bus events. You could use SQS. Um, um, I like the topics. I like the fact that I can have a topic of that data and have those subscribers to that topic. And I mean, SQS, correct me if I'm wrong, if I consume a message as a subscriber, that message is gone. No one else gets that message. You have to use SNS to SQS, right? So you kind of get the topics by you get the consumer queues by using SNS to deploy to multiple SQS queues. So each consumer would need a separate SQS. It's just how you build it out. You can't have 3 consumers of the same queue. You'd have to have 3 different queues, and SNS would distribute to them. So yeah, you can solve the same problems. So again, for me, I'm using it because I'm publishing the fact that here's the tenant, here's the planning data, or here's the organization data, or here's the tenant, and that tenant data um, is being picked up by the notification system. I might want to care if I mean no, the notification system poor choice. But the changes, if it changes a tenant, it gets picked up. The view picks it up and stores it. There's all sorts of use cases where I've got that, but it's nothing you can figure out. Um, oh, thank you, thank you. Um, I'm going to do it time and time again. Miles, thank you for the bits. Thank you for the better emote. So yeah, there's nothing you couldn't solve with SNS SQS. Or even service bus. I could replace the entire thing with service bus if I wanted to, and do. Um, I'm using an outbox. So I have on the planning, like on any component there, when I say publish the event, it writes to the outbox, and then there's a service in the background that is hooked up to publish to Kafka. They are independent, so the data gets stored, and then gets published out, and they're actually independent. So I technically have two outboxes. I have a mediator level, so I have a component level outbox that deals with internals, and then I have an outbox on the Kafka level, which processes those. Overkill, maybe, but it does give me. I can focus on writing to the database and storing the data, and that's what I care about. And everything else happens asynchronously. So if something fails, it doesn't hold up the user being confirmed. Yep, I got your data. I'm good. Um, that's a choice, right? That's a choice to get some experience in a lot of stuff. How I feel about it. Um, but yeah, so um, I'm not here for overkill arguments. My dev end has 48 containers of last count. You ever use query tags in your call? Oh, what's query tags? Limitations. Okay. Ah, around for a while. Tag with. Okay. Adds context to the query in the. That makes sense. Tag with file name and line number. Okay. You can kind of get that. R queries at date query tags. Yeah, I don't do much R queries. Nice. Today I learned a thing. That's awesome. Okay. So I need to figure out how to get control tower up and running. Challenging because I've already started over, right? Find out how this goes. What that's just done is broken a little. What I need. Um, uh, that doesn't make sense. Sentence English. In my world, I see Control Tower as being its own system, dependent of um, Liquid Sky components, right? So Kaizu is the platform. Kaizu is the website. Is the actual product. Control Tower, and we'll go with Liquid Sky for right now. Are two components. Liquid Sky being the client-facing. Here's the application. Here's all your data. Control Tower being the who are you as a business, like an organization that's joined up to our system, um, payments, uh, client management, etc. would exist in Control Tower, right? I do not like the idea of putting those responsibilities in the primary application. I find that blurs the lines a lot of organizations. You don't need to dog food your own application to fit it in because use cases don't always overlap. Using your application as a CMS, even though it's not necessarily a CMS, it's kind of so. But what I've just done is by making this use Foundation, I've just changed my core entity that I can call ad starts in 3 minutes. Um, yeah, I've made a boo boo there. Fine. Because now I don't have true independence because I've got a reason to change um, got reasons to change. But I've got I keep a pad and pen beside me and try and jot down these notes to jog my memory later. Um, one of the problems with hopping around, especially when I'm doing something like this, is that I am trying to take too much context in. Difficult to compartmentalize. I need to upgrade all these. Yeah, that gives me a challenge because I now have forced a change on Wall Tower because I've changed how the foundational component works that we built other things off of. Basis there was that the design is the same, the code is the same, but now I've forced the need for anything that uses base entity that version, which now has those column names mapped, right? So if I wanted to keep this on SQL Server, which I might want to do eventually, I mean, right now, I don't. Good, right? Um, yeah, go with that. Um, so this I have not updated to anything but CT subscriptions. In theory, this would start. What password? You can use that password. Go ahead. This is totally replaced when I do deployment. Ed, what are you going to log into? Tell me what you're going to log into. Deployment completely replaces these connection strings with completely different passwords. And even right now, that deployment sits on a machine that's currently in a pile of other machines, totally turned off. So I'm aware of it, and I'm safe. The purpose of this is that these are development things. They can be committed. There's no harm in them being committed because they can only be used in a development environment. Depending on my not being on your wireless. If I was leaking my personal information, and that was, yeah. And quite honestly, if it was up to me, like, I don't remember why this was forced, but on local dev machines, I wouldn't even have a password in there. Right? I would just have no password, and you wouldn't need to worry about a password. But because of the way it's set up, um, advert. Here's an advert for you, Mojo. That's the second time today. Mojo, I apologize. I think it's the trolling. Um, so what I'm thinking about right now is the fact that subscription inherits from base, and base has those fields in there configuration wise. description inherits from type configuration, which I now have. Again, this is the problem. I now have hard coded the column names in. That's what I was trying to avoid. So I've forced not my teeth like um common yeah, yeah. The fields are on pretty much every entity. There's no mixing ability with up. You end up with that minor inconvenience. But that's the problem I didn't want to bring in. Yeah. Yeah, those 4 fields are common to all the objects in which I have behavior. The problem, again, one of the things I don't like, but again, I'm not setting any standards here. By the way, this is stuff I've seen and validated other people do because it still doesn't feel right. Is this is both my kind of domain model and my entity at the same time. I'm not breaking them out. Again, still doesn't feel 100% correct, but I'm yet to figure out what I like there and what I want to do differently. But it is not uncommon. So, no. A year from now, if I learn some new techniques and learn some ways, I'll change things. Right now, I'm just upset. I'm upset that my code has that constraint, and it's the nature of the shared kernel idea, right? The control tower stuff should behave and read like what I was hoping is that extension method, the overrides work. Then that wouldn't matter. The property name thing wouldn't matter. It behaved correctly. That is most perturbing. Oh, the only thing I can do here right this second is make the changes in this side to accommodate it, much as I don't like that. Update the context. These are just dumb objects. We don't really care in here. These would work with. Uh, so for reference, by the way, pretty much all the information that it gave me before on the why things weren't working, and when I say it, Copilot, um, was incorrect. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give Claude a shot. So back up to the beginning of the conversation. Of the following code to help translate EF properties. Again, not sharing my screen because I don't think it's necessarily relevant. feel that you need to see it. But I couldn't time it. Override is auto create. Model builder. I think I can count now on two hands the number of major changes I've made to the platform over the last couple of years. Like I've just decided, I'm going to do this, make this now. And it doesn't scare me to do it. I think that's what should be true of all code you work with. You shouldn't be scared to change it. It's the amount of work that it takes to get back to normal that I have the luxury of doing private, like personal development here. In a business, this level of refactoring, you'd have to really think about the tactics, how you do this sort of stuff. You can't just go and refactor an entire platform. It'll take me a few days to get back up and running, but I don't know where I've missed those quirks, those fields that now break, that didn't break before, couldn't be caught by unit testing. If I put around a bunch of integration tests, they catch it. But yeah, somewhat comfort with the system. It gives me a lot of confidence here. But okay, so let's see what it calls. The skip navigation loop at the bottom of your code as a hint. If you have many-to-many relationship with no explicit join, quick check. What does your entity class look like specifically? Does it have a public primary key? I'm going to go back and I'm going to give it. But Claude is asking different questions. Claude, the same thing. It gave me the same kind of answer, but it's giving me different questions. So this. Claude is set to not train off my code. Not that I'm panicked about this. Any big changes to the system, don't have time to go around do it everywhere. Yeah. Yep. Oh. So here's the difference. I fed them the same initial prompt, right? Okay. And they both came back with a similar, hey, by the way, this is your thing. So the problem is your property is a getter. So the temp ID shadow key is of course fallback when it can't find a primary key on the entity. It means your entity class either has no ID, has properties without public setters, which is the truth. The entity is an implicitly created join table from a many-to-many. That's not what this particular case is. The behavior you're seeing, only a temp shadow ID and no map properties. Classic EF cost that happens before your snake case runs. Naming code is fine. The real issue is that EF core never recognizes CLR properties as mapped. So it came down here, gave me a whole list of things I could try. Using confirm. So I basically said, right in here, give me a whole lot of text. Right. Claude. Now, I will say Claude is set to do this for me. I tell Claude, do not go into lengthy explanations. If you think that there is more information, prompt me. So give me 1 to 2 sentences and then ask me if I want to know more. So I'm probably limiting that in that respect. So Claude asked me what my entity type was. This didn't ask me what my entity type was. Oh, it did actually. It did ask, and I didn't do it. Okay, that's fair enough. If you want, you can paste the entity class you're testing with. I'll pinpoint exactly why. Let's. I know it's a bit late for this one, but let's copy that one. Give Copilot the same chance. Also, said, come on. Anyone else get that with Copilot? It's like, no, so Claude came back and said, you can use backing fields, but you need to tell it. And this is what we tried to do, and it completely ignored that. Or globally in on model creating to apply all entities. And Copilot picking them. Oh, my mouse is jumping around. So if the stream's jamming up, it's because Copilot is. So for reference, what I'm trying to avoid here is I'm trying to avoid having to explicitly name the columns, because that way I can still keep control tower on SQL Server if I choose to. Now, again, for cost and management perspective, I don't want to do that, but I want the option. So right now I'm being a little stubborn. Yeah, but it didn't work. So Claude recommended this one, and Copilot did not do that. So the only way we do that is test it. That is interesting. So what Claude is telling me is if I go in here, in theory, I can do that there. Right? Oh, not there, you tingling. I can do that there. Oh, that has to happen there, though. Get entity types has to construct instantly. That's the only way that works. It has to be predefined. Let's say on model creating. Okay, not in model. Yeah, that's not going to do me anything in building. No, on model creating. Okay, it is. Okay, we'll trust you. We'll trust you. I didn't do too many of these. Not like I can't undo it. And again, this is what I'm trying to get rid of, by the way. I'm doing this solely so I can get rid of that interrelate, that dependency it puts on me. Because if I want to use MySQL or want to use NoSQL, I have to change the control tower code to support a different type of base model. And on this point, having that base class is actually what's kicking me in the backside, is having that inheritance off of that root object. But again, I'm not mimicking, I'm not doing anything I haven't seen done elsewhere. So, but templating would be the other answer here, right? Create a template for, hey, I'm creating a model. Here's all the fields you need by default. That's how I get around it. There. Let's feel. Okay, so let's see. Still don't think that's the right place. Don't think that's going to do. We now need to go and register. So, not the most productive of streams, and this is going to take me a couple of days to get started. I was hoping I'd get it done in this stream because I was really, really feeling confident earlier with like, oh, I'm like right there. I'm almost done with the creation. I feel that once I've figured out this pattern, then I am a lot further along. It's just how much do I duplicate it? Can I do it in an extension? If I can. Awesome. We can move on. We don't need to apply the snake case on the ones we don't need to apply the snake. But what it is. Oh, hit the breakpoint anyway. Let's see. Is Claude right? The properties, one property. Claude is wrong. Now this is one of those scenarios where it would, if I let Claude out this code, it would change so much and it'd have to go through so many steps to validate it. I'd be very scared having AI do that. Because I think it would make an absolute mess. Because nothing, whether I look at Claude or I look at Copilot there, nothing in there tells me that it has any better idea of what it's doing than that. I don't believe I'm doing this at the wrong time, right? So we'll validate that because I am clearly doing Claude did say put it in your own model creating eventually there, but let's assume let's move some things around. Let's make an assumption. Now, again, does order matter there? Order might matter. I'll just change way too let's try. What's the worst happen? What I should have done there is thought about the order. So my question is, even with this snake case before the apply, it was still getting the model. Or was it getting the model based upon finding the type? Does the apply configurations apply first? In which case, maybe this does actually do something different. So, yeah. Don't often come across those sequence dependencies, but they do. Sometimes they're necessary. Right? Even in my tenancy stuff, I have a sequence dependency. I need to create the tenant. I need to create the user. I need to assign the user to the tenant. Now I need to register the user with the registrar. Because if I register the user with the registrar before I do those things, one of those things fails. I'll be registering users in a system that I don't want to be registering. So this could have been my problem all along. Let's find out. But entity is populated. Design. There we go. It is there. We have them. Nice. Okay. We have a solution. The good news is I don't have to register it. Well, no, I should do. I should do to make sure here. So we go to. So now, because of Kafka, that tenant created event is still sat there. So nothing's broken in my. Once I get the control tower pieces up and running, that event will hit. Control tower will say, "Yep, I got it." Publish the event for the subscription, or publish the Kafka message for the subscription. At which the other side will pick that up and say, "Oh, I need to create a subscription for this user, for this tenant. So let's register a subscription." And now when I go to log in, by the way, when it gets that subscription, it will create the relevant permissions for the user that's registered. That's again on the side of Liquid Sky, not on that. Just in source user. If you are hanging out, if you are watching this stuff and you just kind of watching and not sure what to ask, you are more than welcome to ask any questions. There is a Discord linked in the cards below on YouTube or on Twitch. And you're more than welcome to join. You're more than welcome to hang out and chat. I do hang out in there in the voice chat from time to time. You are in the mood talking. No guarantees on what the conversation is. Also, all the videos are uploaded to YouTube. You can actually watch back to what this product looked like 200 and something streams ago. There is plenty of videos up there. I do plan on making some more content soon of some of the things I do. Get there. You're going to be Alan. You're going to be Alan. Butterly. Butterly. Hoboken, Jersey, States of America. Register. There we go. Okay, so that works. Awesome. We're ending on yes. Or relative success. So now we have tenant addresses, tenant users, tenants, Winkle and Butterly. There we go. Mojo. Night. We're hanging out. Tomorrow. Jeffrey Winkle, Alan Butterly. So our users, everything's registered. If I go to Auth0, I will see Jeffrey Winkle and Alan Butterly registered. User permission. Oh, there's our user permission populated. Interesting. So our second user, everything went through fine. FDC. Something failed on the first one. Okay. That's good news. Kind of. I thought I did that a different way. Okay. Go back here. Sign in. That's going to fail because it's logging in as Jeffrey. Clear. Clear. Sign in. A Butterly. Kaizu.io. Now this should let me into the application, but it won't let me do anything because I have no permission. I have no license or no subscriptions. Right? Please show the application. Please show the application. Just give me something to hold on to for hope. Womp womp. Now this is the part that I need to learn more about, right? Because the reality is, what's happening is events are firing in different places, things are happening, different data is being distributed. I need to learn how to effectively trace all that, but in monitoring and logging at a good level that I understand. So I can go here or next. Why is this spy not running? I should be running. So interesting. Like, no, I'm done. I'm good, thanks. Um, that'll be why, essentially. So the internal identities, again, Liquid Sky, Kaizu has your authentication. Who can you log in? Yes, you can. Awesome. We'll let you log in. Now, do you have permission to do anything? That's the internal identity. When you make a request, you get anything from the server, it will go via the gateway, which will attach your true identity, which has your permissions. So the permissions are housed within. So you have to be logged in. You have to give a valid token. That token is then offloaded, validated against the identity. Yep, I'm good. You can log in. We validated it with Auth0, and now here's your permission set, and then that gets passed, and then that token is then passed in the backend. So all the services behind don't know anything about Auth0, about internal identity. So if I was to swap out Auth0, I can swap out my how you log into the application entirely, um, and you still be in this. What's failed here is identity. This failed on startup. So the identity system um, failed. That happened because probably the table management stuff again, right? I'm probably missing an identity. Services, identities, or in context here. I'm missing my snake. So as we just saw, what we need to do is management. Up. So I think I can get away. Oh, I can't. I don't think that's harmful, even if I was using SQLServer. I think that is perfectly fine. So we're gonna mimic this pattern from now. Right? This is the behavior. Do that, we do that, and I think that worked for both receivers, and that's fine. Let's see what happens. Let's see if it fixes my problems. Okay, so I need to look for someone to raid. It is getting to that point. Oh wait, 9 people. Don't have that many people in. I'm not going to panic. I'm not trying to target unless someone has a suggestion. Up. I'll be back tomorrow morning, 8:30 Eastern, where I'll continue doing this, try and get control tower up and running. I'm going to try and get control tower up and running tonight so I can log into the application. That would be my idea. That's that's a long shot, I think, for tonight. Oh, you. uh, okay. Database LS. Oh, it's logging to the wrong. I've not changed the connection strings. So, does anybody have any suggestions for raid targets in terms of devs? Because I only see Boolean, Tim Griffin, my list that are. Oh, more than happy to raid. Like, so this failed because app setting. Yes. Right database. Right connection string on. Interesting that didn't. This is funny because the password that we had before, I'm clearly missing some code somewhere because I have this token replacement. Actually, how I got rid of that password. Again, not a massive security risk, but easy to miss. So I do have a token replacement that replaces it from my environment. And then, so this is giving me a lot more use cases to play with. Has given me more um, more tools, more challenges, of course. What we're looking for is internal identity infrastructure receivers to run here. Then what we should see, again, because of okay, this should populate on startup. The permissions that this has, each system that needs permissions, because permissions is kind of a globally created object, a globally created object. Tenant users does not take where. Hmm. Well, okay. So we'll see if there is anyone playing game. Again, any suggestions? No, if not, lookers welcome. Want someone else? boring stream for all your boredom. Anyone else doing .NET or C#? That would be ideal. It would be really good to find other .NET devs in this space, try and support. If you are thinking of streaming, you are streaming at time of night, more than welcome. Trades. I'm not seeing anyone that's not doing game dev or what. So it's rough. Let's go and trades. I don't think I've rated Big Boy Games official. Rated Boolean a few times recently. Most of the streams I will raid to, the language in this stream is normal, is controlled, but I can't guarantee that going into someone else. So we'll go raid Big Boy Games official. Okay, so I have some more work to do. Clearly, this is clearly breaking with the naming convention still. So I've got some challenges there. Where is this? This view infrastructure. Oh, that's a good sign. That is a very good sign because that means the view side of things got a notification then. An event fired, notifications hit the other side. So the view was finally catching up. Mostly for my stuff, I end up designating a VM host and just that for all the VB. Go and figure it out anyway. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm gonna have to. I think at some point I'm gonna have to take Dockerization component out of this, host these services on another machine, that I take the load off the dev machine. This does have resource. It's not like the machine is struggling. Something is definitely going wrong. I might have to wipe things. I am very, very tempted. I played with. I set up. I never remember the name of it. I set up a Linux distro for gaming over the weekend. It was the easiest thing I've gone through in years. It just worked. Within 30 minutes, I was playing games. Didn't have to install graphics drivers. Didn't have all the crapware that Windows installs. I'm very, very tempted to install one of these other boxes. Um, um, it was just simple. One of them. E, e, Garuda. Garuda Linux. That's what I went with. And it was just pure and simple. It's Arch based. And no joke, I started the install going, and within 30 minutes, I was playing games, and that's on a Ryzen 7, no, Ryzen 5 7600K, 7600X, and a 9070 XT, so an AMD graphics card. Although Garuda does have a using NVIDIA when it startup, and then another hour later, and I was playing Diablo 4 on Battle.net through a Windows install, and the performance was beautiful. So, no, called it. I have multiple gaming machines. I have dedicated hardware for different things. So this is dev machine, and I have a primary gaming machine and a living room game. That was my living room gaming machine. So I have a 7600X with a 9070 XT. Yeah, thought you might for Casio. CashOS is the one my friend went with. Now I see it. That's the one he went with. I'm still going to. I'm at this point. I think I'm going to wipe my main gaming machine of Windows and put Linux on it. I don't see anything that. The only thing I would think about would be potentially if DCS doesn't work in Linux. But from what I've seen, a lot of apps work and they work well. So, um, but Garuda just worked, and it was the least painful I've gone through. So I am very tempted because all my dev stuff. This is I've got a framework desktop that I'm wanting to use for AI, but I also have a couple of the B-Link PCs, and one of them is a pretty powerful one. So I'm tempted to set that up with Linux, especially as summer rolls around. I can't be running these big PCs; they just take up too much power, and this room will just trip. Yeah. So there's nothing that I'm seeing right now that means that I shouldn't just get a Linux distro installed. See about the dev. So we might actually end up with a stream of that. I also will set up for the summer. I think I've got some of these Zowie boxes. So I'll probably install them and remote in machines that I need to. See if we can just share the screen. Yeah, highly recommend. That was definitely. But anyway, I gotta go. I will be back tomorrow morning, and we'll get more of this stuff done. Yeah, yeah. Oh well, I can definitely attest for this. And well, it was very good. So thank you very much for joining me. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for the conversation. Very much appreciate it. Great rest of your raid Big Boy Games official. I can actually remember how to do raids. Apparently, I'm very bad at this thing. Do no shout outs. If you like distributed computing stuff, I would highly recommend. Sorry, I just totally got your name wrong in that shout out. I missed an E. My apologies. Typing is I'm new to it. I knew it the moment I typed it as well. So my apologies. If you like distributed computing stuff, call Melna. I'm going to head out. Thank you for joining me. Take care. Have a great rest of you. See you soon. Night all.